Good morning, beautiful people. How are you today? I hope you're feeling well. Today I wanted to talk about stress, about how our lives can be controlled by this invisible force. Now, stress plays a role in all our lives. Some of us let it completely dominate our lives from 9 till 5 or even beyond that. Other people really let it get to us at certain times. And there are those who actually use stress in a positive way, channeling it to enable us to use adrenaline, so the chemicals move within our body at the right times to help us in certain situations, to help us pass exams or to help us to reach certain goals. Stress had a major impact on my life and my journey. The irony is that I had no idea that I was stressed. A lot of people would say when I was in one of my older jobs that, you look a little bit stressed. And I used to say, no, what are you talking about? I'm fine. Everything's good. Don't worry, I'm not stressed. I'm a really relaxed person. I'm really chilled out. Stress is never controlling me. And yes, I think I was a relaxed person compared to a lot of people, but that didn't mean that I didn't have stress on me. And it was only actually when I was pushed from my position, as opposed to making that decision to step out of it, that I realised the amount of stress that I'd been under without even realising. That stress of getting to the office in the morning, that stress of delivering a project, that stress of not letting people down, that stress of paying the rent and earning the money which was going to be enough to keep me going in that position, in that quality and that level of life. And the thing is that actually all that pressure, or at least 95% of that pressure, that stress that was created inside me, was actually coming from myself. It wasn't coming from my boss. It wasn't coming from my colleagues. It wasn't coming from my job, although my job was part of it. I was playing the game, and therefore I was stepping outside of being me, not being the true me. And I was worrying about lots of things that actually, when you come down to it and you come into that heart space, into that eagle energy, you realise that they're not necessary. I felt that I had to maintain that lifestyle. I felt I had a reputation to uphold, but what's a reputation when it comes down to it? The truth is we are here. We are a soul in a human shell. And nobody is asking us to do anything. And if we've created a persona, if we've created a personality that we feel that we need to uphold, then there's something not quite right, because the whole point of this life is to surrender to who we are, to learn who we are, to step into our own heart. And to actually be yourself requires zero effort. And if you feel that that's not true, and to be yourself you have to make a big effort, well then you're not being yourself. I love a quote that I saw, which is about stress and the mountains. These mountains that you're carrying on your back, you were only supposed to climb. So many people carry so much baggage along with them. And the reason I wanted to talk about stress today was because this morning we had the dummy school run and we dropped the kids off with the nanny. And my wife has just got a new job. She's going to work. And we always try to drop the kids off together as a family so the kids feel comfortable and help each other out as much as we can to take the pressure off. And for her, it was head down and get to the place and get rid of the kids. Not that she doesn't love them, because she truly does. But she had this deadline that she had to get to the office by this certain time. And I was kind of ambling along in my usual way, not trying to slow anyone down, but just trying to avoid stressing out the children. Because for them, this is a big moment when you drop them off, because they actually get really sad. They have that little moment where they cling on to mummy and daddy, where they say they want to be at home all day and they don't want to go from your arms to the nanny's arms. And of course that's love. And it's beautiful. It's such an amazing moment. But actually once they're there, 5 minutes later, they're absolutely fine. But my wife was saying, look, I've got to go. We've got to get out of the car. We've got to do this. And it wasn't even just the verbal stress that was coming out of her. It was also the energy around her was just thick, soupy. And it means that nobody can relax. No one can be perfectly happy. And it actually then stresses out the children as well. And in life, I think one of the most important things is to try not to get into these high states of stress. And that was one of the reasons I stepped away from my last job, because every morning I had to be in the office at a certain time. Every evening I had to stay till a certain time. And I was spending 100 days travelling every single year, more sometimes. And every time I left the house, left the children, Or even sometimes when the children called me from distant places and I just couldn't answer the phone, and I spoke to them and I gave them 30 seconds of my time. And it's not enough. Because I didn't want to come across as Mr. Super Stressed, but it was impossible to speak to them, give them the time they wanted, and then get back to my job. And it's William James who said the greatest weapon against stress is the ability to choose one thought over another. To make decisions that allow us to lead a life which maybe it has a little bit of stress. I think it's impossible to completely avoid stress. But to lead a life where we know that we can relax, that we can give people the time that they deserve, where we're not constantly in that serpent energy, in that material world. Because the problem when you're in that material world is you're never thinking clearly. And I used to go into meetings with loads of notepads and books and pens and computers and take a zillion notes and prepare for meetings for hours and hours and hours. But after I did the 4 Winds course and I learned how to get into that heart space, I learned to breathe deeply before meetings and I started meditating. Suddenly, I realised that the best meetings that I attended, the meetings where I could have the biggest impact, were the ones where I never took a piece of paper, I never took a pen, I never took a computer, I never prepared so that I was ready in my head with preempted responses to certain questions. The best meetings were the ones where I literally just stepped into that eagle space with nothing in front of me. I listened 100% to everything everybody said. I breathed, I thought, I created. And at these meetings I would come up with these incredible ideas, which I'm not taking any credit for at all, because literally I was in that space where you can think clearly, where you can see clearly, where you can create from nothing. Because nothing was controlling me. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't worried. I wasn't thinking about what people were thinking about what I was saying. I was just there. And I was present. And I was in that heart space. Outside that stress zone. And they say breath is the power behind all things. But I would go beyond that and I would say love. Yes, breathe in. And know that good things will happen. But if you go into that heart space, you can make things happen just like that. Because you're lining yourself up with spirit, and spirit is feeding you. And although most of us associate sacred space with meditation or healings, essentially what you're doing is creating that sacred space within the meeting. And it doesn't just benefit you, it also hugely benefits the people around you. And so at morning times when I'm in the car with my family and I can feel this thick soupy energy around my wife, I try to breathe as well and give her that timelessness, give her that space and hope that she's willing to accept it and to step into it so that she can have a better day. And that's the advice that I always used to struggle to understand. Work on yourself and those around you will benefit. I used to think, how's that going to work? Like, if I work on myself, then does that not make me go further away from the other people? But no, because then wherever you go, you bring this beautiful energy. And I was very aware of that energy when I interviewed Marcela Lobos last night for the Epiphany series. Because even though she was in Chile, 6,000 kilometers away from where I was, even though we were on Zoom, the moment that she started the conversation, she opened sacred space and I'd opened sacred space too. And suddenly we were in each other's energy. So anyone who's concerned that healing work can't work over digital platforms, anyone who's concerned that they can't help someone because they're not in the same space physically as someone else, don't worry. Because I could feel Marcela's energy and she could probably feel mine. And a sacred space, or at least a space that you've created for someone else, can really have a massive difference on their life. My presence shall go with you, and I shall give you rest. We all live in a temple, a sacred temple, and that temple comes with us wherever we go. And if you are a very stressful person, it'd be good to create a mantra in your life which can allow you to step out of that stressful moment, or to at least have that awareness, so that when you feel the stress coming on, you can then breathe and then just maybe repeat a mantra a few times. I will breathe. I will not let my worry control me. Stress can never break you. I will channel it positively to allow me to step into my destiny. Because stress makes you feel like everything needs to happen right now. It makes you worry about the future. It makes you struggle with the past. But if you're a little late for something, whether it's a train, whether it's work, whether it's a plane, just put it into perspective. One, it's probably meant to happen anyway. Maybe you're not meant to take it. But if that stresses you out even more, take a deep breath and just say, well, what's the worst that can happen here? I have to take the next plane, I have to take the next train, I'm going to be a little bit late for work. And why are you so stressed about being late from work? Is it because there's somebody in the office that's stressing you out? Is it someone you can talk to? Are they truly being fair if they're going to judge you on being 5 minutes late for your job or 10 minutes late when you're not even trying to be late, you're even trying to be there? Is it all worth it? If someone is making you feel so stressed, do you really need to be in that job? Go into that heart space, go into that place of divine love, go into that timeless space, and you'll realize that actually, in the great scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. And if it does, it's time to have a bit of an analysis of your life, to see where your priorities lie, because actually stress is one of the biggest causes of poor health. It has a huge impact on our physicality, it has a huge impact on our energy system, and it's very important that this comes before any job or anything in our lives, because if you're not keeping yourself in good shape, in a state of well-being, then you're not helping anyone around you. Because the most important thing is you can be there for people when they need you, and that you're always there for yourself. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening. Love and peace. Peter.